Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. For today's webinar, we are going to be running through some of the highlights of the AMP Impact Jarvis release, which just came out a couple weeks ago. I am Zach Kaufman, co-founder and CEO of Vera Solutions. If we haven't met yet, hi, thanks for joining. I'm joined by Prateek Gupta from our product team. I'll hand it over to Prateek a little bit later to walk us through a live demo of the latest features. We'll take the same format to our release webinar as we usually do. So keep your questions. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat as they come up. I'll provide an updated look at the feature overview for AMP Impact. We can show you some of what's in Jarvis there, as well as some of the other things that we're working on at the moment. Should say Jarvis release highlights, not Indus release highlights. Sorry about that. Clearly, we copied the slide from last time. Jarvis release highlights and a Jarvis release demo, and then we'll have time for a Q&A. We may not even need the whole hour. Depends on your on all the questions that you all want us to dive into. So, without further ado, let's talk about the feature overview. So, this is our trusty feature overview for AMP Impact. We have our inventory of all the different features and components within AMP Impact. You can see in dark blue the new pieces that Jarvis brings in. Some of these are enhancements to existing pieces, like you can see with some of the submissions, the submissions enhancements, which we'll talk about in a minute as quite a focus for Jarvis. There's a new project setup wizard that we'll show you in just a couple minutes. Really helps with speeding up setup of either an application or setup of a project with all the related data underneath it. Also really configurable, so you can adapt it to the different types of components that you're using in your projects or programs or grants or applications or initiatives. And then we've got a fairly significant update to the budget and expenditure tracking functionality in AMP, particularly to the Excel download, upload functionality and format. So we'll take a look at that. In orange, you can get a sense of what's coming on our roadmap as far as other enhancements and features that we're working on in 2023. So we are working on some additional UX enhancements around activities and frameworks. We are going to be bringing in aggregation and calculation to the Manage Indicators Lightning Web component. And if everything I just said is over your head, then bear with me, but happy to answer quite more questions about that in terms of aggregated indicators, calculated indicators. So we'll be bringing that functionality into the latest component, so we can make use of it there. We are doing some enhancements to our analytics templates. And then we are going to be working on project data publishing. So we have on plans for later in the year the ability to kick out Word documents and possibly kick out PDFs as well. I don't want to overpromise there, but I think we're prioritizing Word documents. And then additionally, a feature we've heard from a lot of folks, requests for the ability to upload and download frameworks. So that's another thing that we are working on for this year. So that gives you a little flavor of what we're working on. Obviously, roadmap is confidential and also subject to change, so bit forward looking here, but it gives you a sense of what's to come during this year. Cool. So I think I kind of just summarized some of the highlights from Jarvis. Maybe I'll just say a couple more things on submissions. So the submissions enhancements. So we now can handle file uploads as a question type. So we'll show you how that looks. And you also have the ability to toggle between related submissions when you embed the submission response form into any Lightning page. So it could be a project Lightning page, a reporting period Lightning page, a risk Lightning page, a custom object, or a standard object Lightning page. So that gives a little bit more flexibility, particularly if you're dealing with a number of related submission records or templates or forms that need to be filled out, say over time or by different people underneath a record. I think the enhancements here should be broadly useful, but particularly, organizations using AMP for financial management, budgeting, expenditure tracking. We're keen to get your feedback on the new Excel enhancements, but think that'll make that considerably more friendly, particularly if you have quite a lot of budget lines and if you're budgeting over periods over time. And then I think the project setup wizard really should be broadly helpful for most AMP customers, but particularly if you're doing project or program management with many components, frameworks, work plans, budgets, risk registers, and so forth. that setup wizard can just streamline the process of just creating all those related records. Certainly grant makers, we know a lot of grant makers are making use of the submissions functionality. And so we've prioritized the submissions enhancements based on feedback we've gotten there. Without further ado, let me dive into some animated GIFs or GIFs that walk through the functionality before we get into a live demo by Prateek. So here you can see the project setup wizard. So it's walking through creating related data. You can see there we created a bunch of reporting periods. You can create one or more geographic areas under a project. You can go through creating thematic areas. So really, rather than the user needing to navigate to a different part of the page, you can basically use a wizard to just one-off do the setup of a project initially through this screen flow. It is built through screen flow, so quite configurable. But I'll let Prateek speak to more details on that. The next piece is this update to the Excel templates for budgeting and tracking expenditure. So here you can see the template for budgeting. So you can see now it's organizing the data by time periods. So budget lines in AMP Impact have always been child to reporting periods. But what you can see in the previous template, it was basically a big flat file where each row was one financial record, essentially one line. So one line per budget per reporting period. It's now organized visually on the page across reporting periods or over time. So much more intuitive for building out for building out a budget if you are doing, say, quarterly budget lines or annual budget lines and planning over a particular period, or monthly for that matter. That's how we do our budgeting. You also have an update to the template used for reporting expenditure. So here it's kind of for one particular reporting period, but you're able to take that pre-filled data from the budget and have a friendly template ready to go for reporting in on expenditure against those budget lines. Cool. And then the enhancements for submissions. So here we can see that we can attach one or more files to a submission. So it's a new question type that we can use for in our submission templates to set up file uploads. Again, these can be made required. You could have many questions, or you could have many files in one question. Bit of flexibility in terms of how you work with that. And from the submission, you can also click and preview the file as well that's been uploaded. Great. And then, yeah, I'll leave it to Prateek to dive in and demo in a little bit more depth. But that's it from me. So I'll hand the floor over to Prateek.
Thank you, Zach. Let me quickly share my screen, just a second. All right. Can you see AMP Impact on my screen?
Yep, we can.
All right. Awesome. Cool. Thanks everyone for joining. As Zach said, we have a lot of valuable features in this release, and I'm really excited to demo those to you. Let's start with the project setup wizard. Just a second. Okay. So we built the project setup wizard, as Zach said, to streamline the process of creating related records on a project. And let's see how that looks like. So on the project, we have this button. I click on this quick action now button to set up project. I have a screen where I can see all the related records that I can create using this wizard. When I click on next, I will have this wizard guide me through different screens where I can create different related records as I want. So first off, we have reporting periods. My start and end data pre-filled based on my project start and end date. Let's say I want to create quarterly reporting periods, so I'll select that. Let's say I also want to create an annual reporting periods, and I do track baseline data for my project indicators. I'll click on next, and my reporting periods are created. Next, I want to create some geographic areas on my project so that I can start tracking my project indicators based on geographies. So let's say I want that for India and Pakistan. I click on next, and my records are created. Similarly, I will go screen by screen, and I can create the related records as I wish. Let's say I don't need to create thematic areas right now, so I'll skip that. I can create related frameworks. Let's say for this demo, I'm creating a test framework. I can add a description if I want to. And if I wanted to create another framework, I'll click on this checkbox, click on next, and I'll get an option to create another framework. For this demo, I'll skip it. Similarly, I can create implementation plans, and all the fields that you see on these screens are uh, configurable. You can decide what fields will be displayed to the users when they are setting up these records. Let me skip that. Okay, let me create a budget also quickly. I'll set the start date as uh, okay, let me select 1st of May. It's a weird date, but just for this demo. And I'm done. So what this feature allows the organizations to do is to give their users a streamlined way to create the related data. And the good thing is, even though we have a lot of features out of the box, this is very customizable. So you can decide what the process of creating related records is going to look like. If you don't track some part of related data, so for example, if you're not doing financials, you can skip creation of budget. You can choose to remove that part of the setup. And if you are tracking some data on some other related custom object for your organization, you can add that to this project. If you want to add additional guidelines, if you want to rename stuff, you can do all of that. So let's see how that would look like a little bit. So the good thing about this is you can create different versions of this project setup wizard and then conditionally display them to user either based on project type or stage of a project, and then you can really dictate at which stage what data is to be set up. So for this demo purposes, I have uh, both of these buttons on the same page, but you will have just one. So this is the customized version, and you can see that I don't have implementation plans here. Instead of that, I have project rules. If I click on next, I get the same screens, but I want to show you this thing that we have built, which is a duplication warning. So I already know that these reporting periods are already in my project. So I can avoid creating them and create duplicates. So basically making sure that there's clean data in the projects. But let's say I still clicked on quarterly because I miss seeing that for some reason. And then I click on next. I'll still get a duplication warning that 8 quarterly reporting periods are already present. I can just go back and change my inputs, or I can skip creation of related records. We really hope that this uh, enhances users' experience and helps them create clean data for all. In this on this screen, you could see that I have added a guideline which was not available out of the box. So you can add any guideline which is suitable to your users. And if you wanted to use like more powerful features on creating catalog records on your project using many-to-many, such as filtering this list to show a subset of this data which is applicable to this particular project, you can use many-to-many and embed that in the setup wizard. That. So in this case, let's say I'll just select done, for example, and that is created in my org. Similarly, I can still create everything else here. I want to show you the new object that's added here, which is project roles. So you can see that I have added, instead of implementation plan, I have added project roles here, and I have specified what fields will be displayed. You can select a role and type and whoever contact you want to assign this role to, and you can do this for as many objects you want. I'll skip object because I have skip budget because I've already had that. So yeah, this is a really powerful feature, and we hope it saves a lot of time for you users. It cuts down on back and forth communication between different users, just making sure what they need to set up, and really help organizations dictate what data needs to be set up at what point of time. Cool. So that's Project Setup Wizard. Let's talk about another feature that we have, uh, which is the new budget templates. So if I click on the budget here, I will go to the budget record. And on the budget record, you'll see some differences. So we have this new field active where you can specify if this is the current budget you are tracking. If you have versionings of budget, And if you have a V1 budget and a V2 budget, you can mark V1 as inactive. And essentially, when you are working with the download upload functionality, it will automatically only show active budgets so that users are only working with uh, the most updated budgets. So you can control that. To get started with working the enhanced templates, the users will have to do this setup. And this setup, we have built this new functionality to be in line with the business process of the organizations follow. It is generally how all of your all organizations do budgeting. So we really hope that it enhances your users' experiences in terms of, and it makes it really easy for them to just follow this process in Amplify. So first, I decide what my budget period is. And let's say I track my budget line items annually. I set my budget line items annually, and then I can select whatever budget reporting periods I'm tracking them for. So in this case, I will create them for both 2022 and 23. And then I can specify what's my reporting frequency. So even though I'm creating my budget annually, I will be reporting actuals quarterly. And similarly, I can select what quarters I want to report. Once this setup is complete, the users can download the template on their system. And let me show you what that downloaded template looks like. So as Zach showed us, this is the new template, and you will see that we have different reporting periods here. So instead of creating individual line items for a reporting period, you can just enter all the common data here. So in this case, name, type, category, and activities common across my financial line items. And then the data which is unique to my reporting period. So quantity and amount planned is going to be. Let's see how that looks like once you have entered this data. So once you have entered this data, you can see that I have volunteer stipend, and I am planning it for 2022 and 2023 in the same row. Uh, this is considering how organizations work right now. So it's really aligned with that. Once you
Maybe a
have,
quick a quick question a quick question there, Prateek. If an
yep.
organization wanted to change which columns they're capturing, either on the left side of this or within the kind of repeated sections, is that something they can do?
Oh yeah, that's a great question, and thanks Zach for flagging this. So yeah, this template is really customizable. You can decide what these columns are, which is your common columns, and then you can also decide which these columns are going to be. So if there are some columns that you have different values for each reporting period, you can add them here using field sets. So it's really easy, and you can also decide what your common data columns are going to be. So yeah, it's really customizable that way.
Cool, thanks.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for like that. So once we have this data here, you have done your planning here. You can go back to the budget record, uh, click on the upload budget, select your file, and my case, it's this file. And then my file is uploaded. Uh, oops, I
That was probably
selected
the
the
blank
wrong
one
one.
that you just downloaded.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There we
So
go.
my financial line items are successfully uploaded. I can also see my successes, and if there were any error messages here, I would get a button to view my errors so that you can see what mistakes you have made while entering data and correct them. So yeah, once you have done your data planning, your budget planning, you will want to report all actuals. To do that, we'll go to the reporting period. And then following the similar process, we'll make use of download and upload templates. But before we do that, I want to highlight this available for financials field. So if you are not planning to track financials on certain reporting periods, you can uncheck this, and then this facility won't be available there. So just another feature for you to really manage where you want to track your finances. So similarly, I will be downloading my financial report here, and let's see what that looks like. So you'd see here, all my data is, all my common data is already pre-filled from what I planned. So I don't need to enter that again. I only need to enter what I'm tracking here. And again, these columns are also customizable. So you can, if along with amount actual, for example, if you are tracking your quantity actuals, you can add that field here. So yeah, you'll just enter that data. Let's see what that looks like. So for Q1, my amount actual is this, and my travel reimbursement this, and office supplies. And once I have filled this data, I can go back to reporting period, can upload my financial report. The same process as we did on budget. And yeah, I upload it and my financials are created. And once you are done with your financials, you can just submit it for approval, and whatever approval process you have set for your organization, that will fire and can go through that process. So we really hope that you like this enhancement, and it would help users in your organizations track budgets with the impact data in AMP Impact. And if you're interested in this feature or project setup wizard, please consider upgrading to Jarvis. Yeah. Cool.
Maybe a couple of just other quick follow-up questions on this. I mean, the example you gave here was annual budgeting and quarterly reporting. I assume it would work well. It would work just as well if you have the same period, like the same period. So annual and annual, or quarterly and quarterly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when users are setting their data, they can in fact choose to do annual planning and annual reporting. So they can set up. It's really flexible. Like you
Yep.
can select whatever frequency for planning and then reporting.
Cool. And these features all work in experience sites as well for like grantees or applicants, external users.
Yes, yes, they do. So yeah, you can use them in your org, or you can make them available to your grantees using experience sites.
Great. Awesome. I'll let you keep going with the demo. Thanks.
Cool. All right. So now that we are done with the two new features that we built, let's talk about some of the exciting enhancements that we have for this. I'll start with narrative assessment or submissions. So the first thing you'll notice on narratives here is this toggle. And using this, you can access multiple related narratives on any object that you have set it up. In this demo, I have this on project, but if you have this set up on reporting periods or accounts or whatever object for your use case, you will have access to multiple related submissions or narrative that you have for this. So in this case, as Zach said, there could be many use cases of this. If you are tracking like periodic data or for different users, or you have different narrative assessments for different use cases. So I'll just select this one and I can fill it out. I can submit. Every other thing that I could do, I can still do, but I have this flexibility of selecting what narrative assessment I want. Another cool feature and much requested one is the ability to upload files while filling out narrative data. And the cool thing is you can restrict the file upload to be a single file. So in this case, let's say I want to upload ID document. I can do that. And once that's uploaded, you would see that user doesn't have an option to upload other files. So you can restrict that, or you can allow users to upload multiple files. So I'll just select both of these files. And once they are uploaded, you will see that users still have options to upload other files as well. They can delete those files, upload other files, and yeah, we really hope that this feature allows users to have submit their supporting documents or something that you require from your grantees. You can ask those documents, and they will be available in this form itself. Cool. After submissions, let's move on to some UX enhancements that we have made on frameworks and activities. So on frameworks, we have the ability to decide a default sort order for the framework objectives in the table based on a field. So in this example, you'd see that I have sorted my framework objectives based on this code field. So if I were to change this code field to, let's say, 1.3, you would see that it has gone down in the table, and it's at the bottom of the list. So it's a small enhancement, but we really hope that it helps users organize their framework objectives and then go through them, search them easily, because now they are able to sort on whatever criteria they want.
Yeah, it's good. We definitely see a lot of organizations using codes to kind of organize framework, organize the objectives in the framework. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And the next UX enhancement that we have is on activities. So in last year, we introduced the ability to create milestones. So users could create either tasks or milestones when they are creating their activity plan. But some organizations only create tasks or they only create milestones. So with this enhancement, we have allowed organizations to define what sort of activities do they create. So if I don't track milestones in my organization, I can disable that. And then my users will only get an option to create tasks. And yeah, it would save their time. They won't have to click twice to do the same thing. And it would also save them some confusion if they were like confused about which activity to create. So again, a small enhancement, but we hope that it enhances their experience of using activities in Amplify. So yeah, that's all from my side. Zach, are there any questions, or I can hand it back to you?
Yeah, that's great, Prateek. Thanks so much. We just have one question in from Joe. Hey, Joe. Around, and I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, Prateek, but is there a limit to the number of budget or financial lines that can be uploaded at one time?
Yeah, I don't have that data top of my head, but once we do that, we can share an update.
Cool. Yeah, we can certainly share. I believe it's in the hundreds at least. I know
Oh,
we've stress tested, but yeah, we'll confirm the exact number. Cool. And another question around just confirming, do we say that downloading the framework is coming soon? That is something that we are planning for this year. I'd have to double check on the roadmap which release we're planning for, but I believe it's for our fall release is what we're targeting for framework download upload. I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Prateek.
yeah, that's correct. We are still figuring out uh, the exact pieces which will go into the release, but that's our tentative plan.
Yep. Yep. Roadmap always subject to change. Great. So we have a little poll we wanted to open up just to get some feedback from you all on what you're excited about with this release and what you're excited about with the roadmap. So Zena, if we're able to launch that and make this a little interactive, great. Y'all should be seeing the questions now. It's just 2 quick questions from you. So we want to know what you're most excited about in Jarvis, and we want to know what upcoming features you're most looking forward to. Give you all another few seconds to do that, and I will share my screen. If we have any other questions that folks want us to address, feel free to pop those in the chat. All right, we can close the poll. Let's see what we got. All righty, nice little spread. Seems like there's good energy around the project setup wizard. Bit on the budget templates, not as much on submissions, a little bit on activities. Cool. And then good bit of energy around framework upload, download, and publishing wizard. A little bit of interest in risk matrix as well as something we've been doing some early thinking around. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for your input. That's always helpful. I will share my screen one more time just to help close us out. But again, if any other questions, if there are any other questions out there people would like us to field about this release, happy to do so. Do check out the verasolutions.org/amp updates page. We always publish all of our latest all of our latest release instructions, guidelines, steps for upgrading, that sort of stuff is always published there. If you're interested in doing an upgrade, definitely reach out to us. We'd love to help you out with that and coach you through the process. There's a few steps that you'll want to be handling, sorting out in upgrading to Jarvis, and certainly if you're doing an Indus upgrade, there's a good number of steps that need to be completed administratively to upgrade to Indus, but well worth it if you saw the last webinar and caught some of those latest features in Indus. Combined with what we've got in Jarvis, I think we've got some really great momentum in the product. On that front, we'd love reviews on the App Exchange. If you want to drop us a review, we'd certainly appreciate that. This is something that Salesforce keeps an eye on, and it's quite important to them. Thanks for posting that in. They keep an eye on kind of reviews, and that's a key aspect for us as a partner. So plus we always just love feedback. And yeah, just if we can be helpful as far as upgrading, you can reach out to support@verasolutions.org, or you can reach out to your point of contact, project manager or account manager, and they can get the support team, the service delivery team in the mix to assist with this, or we can plan it into a project if we're currently working on a project with you. Excellent. And I think that's all from our side. We'll stick around just in case there's any other questions that folks want us to field in the chat, but want to be mindful of everybody's time, and big thanks to everyone for joining us today. Thanks to Prateek for that great demo, and excited to get you all on the latest and greatest AMP release with Jarvis. And we'll keep cranking along with the next one, which will be coming out this summer. That's going to be AMP Impact Colossi, so stay tuned for that.